Security never fails all at once. First, it changes rhythm. Simone Hayes heard her father's voice in her head at exactly 9:17 p.m. She was standing inside Adrian Vescari's dining room with a silver whiskey tray balanced against one palm. 12 men occupied the room. 3 capos sat around the long walnut table. 4 bodyguards stood near the walls. The remaining men belonged to Adrian. Or at least, everyone believed they did. Rain struck the tall windows of the Vescari estate. Soft, steady, almost peaceful. Simone poured whiskey into Adrian's glass. Click. Her hand stopped. Across the room, a bodyguard touched his earpiece. Nothing unusual. Security men touched earpieces constantly. Simone continued pouring. Click. The automatic lock on the dining room door engaged. Her eyes moved toward it. The door was never locked during dinner. Never. Simone knew because she cleaned the brass plate every morning. A third sound came from behind her. Click. Marcus Vale, Adrian's chief bodyguard, placed his silver watch on the side table. Simone looked at the clock above the fireplace. 9:17. Her fingers tightened around the bottle. 3 weeks. 3 weeks of wrong coffee cups. Wrong footprints. Wrong rotations. 3 weeks of grocery receipts hidden inside her apron pocket. Each one marked with times nobody else cared about. 9:17, 9:17, 9:17. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments below. And if you believe the people everyone ignores often see the most, hit like and subscribe. Now back to Simone. Adrian Vescari sat at the head of the table. 41 years old. White. Dark hair swept back from a face Boston newspapers rarely photographed clearly. His charcoal suit fit perfectly. His expression revealed nothing. Men feared Adrian because he noticed hesitation before others noticed betrayal. But tonight, he was watching the wrong men. Simone lowered the whiskey bottle. Marcus looked at her, only for half a second. Then he smiled. Simone's stomach tightened. Her father had taught hotel security for 26 years. He had never taught her how to fight, never taught her how to shoot. He taught her something quieter. Watch patterns. People lie. Patterns don't. Simone stepped toward Adrian. One bodyguard shifted his weight. Another moved his right hand closer to his jacket. Adrian lifted his glass. Simone bent beside him, as if adjusting the folded napkin near his plate. Her heart struck hard against her ribs. If she was wrong, she would lose her job. If she was right, she might not leave the room. Her lips moved close to Adrian's ear. Your bodyguards are traitors. Adrian did not turn. The whiskey glass remained halfway to his mouth. Simone whispered again. Leave by the back door now. Silence. The rain continued against the windows. Adrian slowly took one sip. His gray eyes moved toward the reflection in the dark glass of the wine cabinet. Behind him, one bodyguard had placed his hand inside his jacket. Adrian set down his drink. How many? He asked quietly. Simone kept her eyes on the table. All 4 in this room. For the first time that evening, Adrian's fingers stopped moving. Marcus Vale smiled from across the room. Something wrong, boss? Adrian looked at Simone. 1 second. That was all. Then his expression hardened. Simone. She straightened. Yes, Mr. Vescari. The wine cellar inventory. His voice cut through the room. Now. Simone stared at him. Adrian's eyes held hers. Cold. Controlled. But she understood. Yes, sir. Adrian stood. Marcus watched him. Boss. Adrian adjusted his cuff. The woman can't count bottles without making mistakes. Simone lowered her eyes. The insult landed perfectly. Marcus laughed. So did 2 other guards. Adrian walked toward the door behind Simone as if irritated by nothing more dangerous than incompetent staff. The automatic lock clicked open. Simone stepped into the corridor. Adrian followed. The door closed behind them. They walked 6 steps. 7. 8. Then Adrian spoke without looking at her. Don't run. Simone's breath caught. Behind them, the dining room went silent. And somewhere inside the walls of the Vescari estate, the rhythm changed again. 3 weeks earlier, Simone Hayes had noticed a coffee cup where no coffee cup belonged. It sat on the windowsill of the west corridor. Black ceramic. Half empty. A thin brown ring. Drying around the inside. Most people would have carried it to the kitchen. Simone stopped. Marcus Vale drank coffee from black cups. No cream. 2 sugars. Every night at 8:40. But Marcus was assigned to the east wing that evening. Simone looked down the corridor. Empty. The security camera above her moved slowly from left to right. Left. Right. Left. Simone picked up the cup. Still warm. Her father's voice returned. People tell you where they are supposed to be. What they leave behind tells you where they were. Simone carried the cup downstairs. She said nothing. That was the advantage of being invisible. For nearly 3 years, Simone had worked inside the Vescari estate. She knew which chandelier collected dust fastest, which guest bathroom had a faucet that leaked twice before stopping, which capo left cigar ash beneath his chair because he assumed someone else would clean it. And she knew the guards. Not personally, by pattern. Elliot Kane smoked near the north gate 11 minutes before shift change. Derek Shaw polished his shoes every Thursday. Caleb Ross always checked the kitchen after midnight for leftover pie. Marcus Vale drank coffee at 8:40. East Wing. Always. Simone noticed because Simone cleaned what people left behind. Cups. Ash. Mud. Fingerprints. Habits. Adrian Vescari never asked what she saw. Neither did anyone else. To the men guarding the estate, Simone was part of the architecture. A dark-skinned woman in a gray uniform moving quietly between rooms. Useful. Silent. Forgettable. That suited her. Until the house changed rhythm. 2 nights after the coffee cup, Simone found red mud near the west staircase. She knelt beside it. The estate grounds were covered in pale gravel. The gardens had dark soil. No red clay. She touched the dried edge with one finger, then looked toward the security door. A guard emerged. Derek Shaw. His boots were clean. Too clean. He saw Simone kneeling. Problem. She looked up. Someone tracked mud. Derek smiled. Then clean it. Simone held his eyes for half a second. Yes, sir. He walked away. Simone waited. Then she opened the supply closet and removed a clear plastic bag. Her father used to bring evidence bags home from security training seminars. Never because he expected his daughter to need them. Life had a sense of humor. Simone collected a small piece of dried mud. That night, she wrote on the back of a grocery receipt. West Corridor, Marcus Cup, 8:52. West Stairs, red mud, Derek, 10:14. She folded the receipt, placed it inside her apron. The next evening, the West Corridor camera went dark for 7 minutes. Simone knew because she was polishing the mirror beneath it. At 9:10, the small red light disappeared. At 9:17, it returned. 7 minutes. Exactly. Simone wrote it down. The following night, 3 guards touched their earpieces at the same time. 9:17, click, click, click. Simone stood in the kitchen doorway holding folded towels. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Then Marcus Vale appeared at the end of the hall. He looked at the guards. They looked away. Simone lowered her eyes before Marcus could notice her watching. Her heartbeat changed. Not fear. Recognition. The house was speaking. Quietly. In cups. Mud. Dark cameras. 7 missing minutes. Simone did not yet know what the men were planning. She did not know when. She did not know why. But she knew one thing. The Vescari estate had survived for years because every man inside followed a rhythm. Now 4 men were moving to a different beat. And the only person who seemed to hear it was the maid carrying their dirty cups away. The most dangerous secrets rarely announce themselves. They repeat. By the end of the second week, Simone had 6 grocery receipts hidden beneath the lining of her dresser drawer. Each one carried times, names, locations. Nothing dramatic. Nothing Adrian Vescari's security team would call evidence. But Simone was not looking for evidence. She was listening for rhythm. Monday. Marcus's black coffee cup appeared in the West Corridor at 8:52. Tuesday. The West camera lost power from 9:10 until 9:17. Wednesday. Elliot Kane left the North Gate 6 minutes before his scheduled break. Thursday. 3 earpieces clicked at exactly 9:17. Friday. Nothing. That frightened Simone most. She stood inside the kitchen that Friday night, drying a crystal glass while rain pressed softly against the windows. 9:16. She watched the clock. 9:17. No click. No camera outage. No unusual footsteps. The estate remained perfectly quiet. Simone slowly lowered the glass. Her father used to say criminals made mistakes when they were nervous. Professionals made everything look normal. The next morning, Simone found the security room cleaning cloth in the laundry. Blue microfiber. One corner stained with black grease. She held it beneath the fluorescent light. Security staff washed their own equipment separately. Always. Simone carried the cloth upstairs. The security room door stood open. Marcus was inside. He looked up. Simone stopped. Something wrong, he asked. She raised the cloth. This was in the laundry. Marcus stared at it. 1 second too long. Throw it away. Yes, sir. Simone turned. Simone. Her feet stopped. Marcus leaned back in his chair. How long have you worked here? Almost 3 years. And you like the job? The question was casual. His eyes were not. Yes, sir. Good. Marcus smiled. People should appreciate quiet work. Simone forced a polite smile. I do. She walked away. Only when she reached the linen room did she breathe again. Marcus knew. Maybe not what she had seen, but he knew she was looking. That evening, Simone called her older aunt in Dorchester. Aunt Renee, baby, you working? Yes. You sound strange. Simone looked toward her apartment window. Do you remember Dad losing his job? Silence. Then Renee sighed. I remember. He warned them about the loading dock. Simone. They didn't listen. No, and 3 days later, I know what happened. Simone closed her eyes. Her father had spent 26 years in hotel security. One winter, he discovered a pattern of disabled cameras near a service entrance. Management called him paranoid. A week later, thieves entered through that door. Nobody died, but her father was blamed for the breach. Fired. Disgraced. He never worked security again. Your father saw trouble everywhere after that, Renee said. No, Simone's voice became quiet. He saw it once. She looked at the receipts spread across her table, and nobody believed him. The following Monday, Simone returned to the estate. At 8:58 p.m., she entered the kitchen. A small monitor near the pantry displayed security feeds for staff emergencies. North Gate, East Hall, Garage, West Corridor. Simone stopped. The north gate opened. 3 seconds. No vehicle entered. No delivery truck waited. Then it closed. Simone checked the clock. 9:16. Her heartbeat accelerated. She looked toward the dining room. Adrian was inside. Marcus too. For guards. 9:17. Click. 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 Simone's hand tightened around the whiskey tray. This time, she did not write anything down. There was no time left for receipts. Her father had once stayed silent after powerful men laughed at his warning. Simone Hayes would not make the same mistake. She lifted the tray, straightened her uniform, and walked toward the room where 4 armed men were waiting for the clock to move. Powerful men often believe escape means running. Adrian Vescari knew better. Don't run. His voice barely disturbed the corridor. Simone kept walking. 6 steps ahead, the wine cellar door waited beneath a brass light. Behind them, the dining room remained silent. Too silent. Simone reached for the cellar handle. Adrian caught her wrist. Not violently. Firmly. If I disappear now, he whispered, they know you warned me. Simone looked at him. For the first time in 3 years, Adrian Vescari was not looking through her. He was studying her. How long, he asked. 3 weeks. You've known for 3 weeks? I suspected. That's not the same thing. No, Simone's eyes stayed steady. It isn't. A chair scraped inside the dining room. Adrian released her wrist. Open the door. Simone did. The wine cellar smelled of oak and cold stone. Rows of bottles disappeared into shadow. Adrian stepped inside. Simone followed. He closed the door halfway. Tell me. There's no time. Make time. Simone stared at him. Men in Boston lowered their voices when Adrian Vescari entered restaurants. Judges avoided his name in private conversations. Businessmen returned his calls before their wives. But Simone could hear footsteps approaching the corridor. And fear did not care about reputation. Your west camera loses 7 minutes, she said. Marcus has been crossing wings outside his rotation. The north gate opened tonight without a vehicle. Adrian's expression did not move. Anything else? Red mud. His eyes narrowed. What? Red mud near the west stairs. A shadow crossed beneath the cellar door. Simone stopped breathing. The shadow paused. Adrian raised one finger. Silence. 3 seconds. Then Marcus's voice came from the corridor. Boss. Adrian looked at Simone. She saw the question in his eyes. Trust me? Simone shook her head once. Adrian turned toward the door. What? Marcus laughed softly. Everything good. Adrian's face changed instantly. Irritation replaced suspicion. The inventory is wrong. Simone understood. She lowered her eyes. I'm sorry, Mr. Vescari. Adrian's voice became sharp. Sorry doesn't replace a $6,000 bottle. Marcus appeared in the doorway. His gaze moved from Adrian to Simone, then to the shelves. Want me to handle it? Adrian looked at him. No, Marcus smiled. Of course. He remained there. 1 second. 2. 3. Then walked away. His footsteps disappeared. Simone exhaled. Adrian did not. He offered to handle you, Adrian said quietly. Simone looked toward the corridor. Yes. And you weren't surprised? No, Adrian stared at her. The lights went out. Darkness swallowed the cellar. Somewhere upstairs, glass shattered. Then came the sound of the estate's emergency locks engaging. One after another. Click, click, click. Simone's heart slammed against her ribs. Adrian reached inside his jacket. Back door, he whispered. No, he froze. Simone grabbed his sleeve. You told me to leave by the back door. I needed you out of that room. What are you saying? The back door is where they expect you to go. A faint red emergency light flickered alive. Adrian's gray eyes hardened. You lied to me. I kept you moving. Footsteps thundered above them. Simone turned toward the rear shelves. Help me. She pulled bottles from the lowest rack. Adrian stared. Simone, help me. He moved. Together, they dragged the wooden rack 6 inches from the wall. Behind it was a narrow metal panel. Adrian's expression changed. What is that? Maintenance. Access. How do you know? Simone opened the panel. Cold air moved from the darkness beyond. She looked at the man who owned the mansion. Because I clean the places powerful men never look at. The room went silent. Then footsteps entered the wine cellar. Simone slipped through the opening. Adrian followed. She pulled the panel closed. Darkness. Complete. On the other side, Marcus Vale entered the cellar. Simone could hear his breathing. Then his voice. Calm. Certain. Find him. Adrian stood inches from Simone in the narrow passage. For 20 years, armed men had protected his life. Now those men were hunting him. And the only person between Adrian Vescari and betrayal was the black Maid he had barely noticed until 9 minutes ago. Darkness has a way of making powerful men equal to everyone else. Inside the maintenance passage, Adrian Vescari could not see his own hands. He could only hear Simone breathing ahead of him. Slow. Controlled. Keep your left hand on the wall, she whispered. Adrian did. The concrete was cold beneath his palm. Behind them, muffled footsteps moved through the wine cellar. Marcus Vale was less than 15 feet away. A wooden rack scraped. Adrian stopped. Simone reached backward and found his sleeve. Move. They continued. The passage narrowed. Pipes crossed above their heads, forcing Adrian to bend. His expensive shoes stepped through shallow water. For a man who owned the estate, Adrian looked strangely unfamiliar inside its walls. Simone did not. She counted doors beneath her breath. 1. They passed a metal panel. 2. Another. 3. Adrian heard voices behind them. Check the cellar walls. Marcus. Adrian's jaw tightened. 12 years. Marcus Vale had stood outside hospital rooms when Adrian's mother was dying. He had attended funerals, Christmas dinners. He had once taken a broken bottle across his shoulder during a nightclub attack meant for Adrian. Trust the men who have bled beside you. Adrian had lived by that rule. Now the man who had bled for him was searching the walls. Stop, Adrian whispered. Simone froze. He turned toward her voice. Why should I trust you? Silence filled the passage. Simone released his sleeve. You shouldn't. Adrian's hand moved inside his jacket. Simone heard it. You could be leading me anywhere, he said. Yes. You knew the cameras? I clean under them. You knew the gate. I saw the monitor. You knew this passage. I found it 6 months ago when a pipe leaked behind the wine rack. Adrian stepped closer. Convenient. Simone's expression disappeared in darkness. Then paper rustled. She reached into her apron. Here. Adrian did not move. What is it? Take it. He did. 6 folded grocery receipts. Adrian could barely see them. Simone removed a small flashlight from her pocket and covered most of the beam with her fingers. A thin line of light appeared. Marcus, West Corridor, 8:52. Camera off, 9:10. Camera on, 9:17. North Gate, 9:16. 3 clicks, 9:17. Adrian read every line. You wrote this? Yes. Why? Because memory gets called imagination when the wrong person is speaking. Adrian looked up. Simone's eyes were steady. No panic. No request for praise. Just certainty. A metallic sound echoed behind them. They were opening the access panel. Simone killed the flashlight. Move. They hurried. At the end of the passage, Simone pushed open a maintenance door. The boiler corridor glowed beneath red emergency lights. Adrian stepped out. Simone followed, then stopped. She looked down at Adrian's shoe. What? Simone crouched. A streak of dried red mud marked the edge of his black leather sole. Adrian stared. I haven't been outside. I know. Simone touched the mud. Then she looked at him. Where were these shoes today? My office. Who entered? Adrian's face became still. Marcus. The corridor seemed colder. Simone stood. The mud near the west stairs. Adrian understood before she finished. Marcus had been in the west wing. Marcus had crossed the camera blind spot. And Marcus had entered Adrian's private office. Adrian reached for his phone. No signal. What was in your office? Simone asked. Adrian did not answer. His eyes changed. Not fear. Something worse. Recognition. Mr. Vescari? Adrian looked toward the dark corridor. My safe property list. Simone's face tightened. How many locations? 5. And Marcus knows them now. Adrian slowly lowered the phone. For the first time that night, the Mafia Boss looked trapped. His mansion was compromised. His guards were traitors. His escape routes were known. Every safe house was waiting for him. Simone studied the man beside her. Then she made a decision. I know one place. Adrian looked at her. Where? Simone turned toward the service stairs. A place Marcus Vale would never think to look for Adrian Vescari. Above them, footsteps entered the maintenance passage. Simone began climbing. Adrian followed. And for the first time in 20 years, the most feared man in Boston had no mansion, no guards, and no safe house. He had only a maid. And her word. The safest place for a powerful man is sometimes the place his enemies believe is beneath him. Simone led Adrian through the service stairs and into the old delivery corridor. The emergency lights behind them faded. Rainwater rattled through pipes above their heads. Where does this go? Adrian whispered. Laundry loading dock. Guarded. Usually. Tonight. Simone stopped at a steel door. Tonight, the guards are looking for you. She opened it. Cold rain struck Adrian's face. The loading dock was empty. No armored car. No driver. No men waiting with umbrellas. Only a rusted delivery ramp and 2 trash containers shining beneath the security lights. Simone moved first. Adrian followed. They crossed behind the kitchen building and reached the staff parking lot. Simone unlocked a 12-year-old silver Honda. Adrian stared at it. This is your escape plan? Simone opened the driver's door. My escape plan was going home after work. A shout echoed from the estate. Lights swept across the lawn. Simone looked at Adrian. Get in. The Mafia Boss entered the passenger seat of a Maid's Honda. Simone started the engine. It coughed. Adrian slowly turned toward her. Don't. The engine coughed again. Simone gripped the wheel. Not a word. On the 3rd turn, the engine started. They drove away. No one stopped them. That was the strange thing about invisibility. People searched for Adrian Vescari in black SUVs. They watched highways, private garages, airfields. Nobody looked. Twice at a tired black woman driving an old Honda through Boston rain. 28 minutes later, Simone parked outside a narrow brick apartment building in Roxbury. Adrian looked through the windshield. This is the place. Yes. You live here. Simone removed the key. That's generally how apartments work. For the first time that night, something almost human crossed Adrian's face. Almost a smile. It disappeared quickly. They climbed 3 flights. Simone unlocked apartment 3B. Adrian entered. The room was small, warm. A yellow lamp glowed beside a second-hand sofa. 2 pairs of work shoes rested near the door. Bill sat beneath a ceramic bowl. A framed photograph stood on the bookshelf. Adrian walked toward it. A black man in a blue security uniform smiled beside a teenage Simone. My father, she said. Adrian studied the photograph. He taught you. Yes. Security? Observation. Simone removed her wet uniform jacket. He said most security systems fail because people stare at screens and stop watching people. Adrian looked around. Books filled one shelf. Surveillance manuals. Hotel security procedures. Emergency management guides. Old. Highlighted. Used. You read these? They were his. Adrian picked up one manual. A sentence had been underlined in blue ink. Routine creates safety. Broken routine reveals threat. Adrian closed the book. Why did he stop? Simone became still. He warned his management about a service entrance. Adrian waited. They ignored him. What happened? The entrance was breached. And they blamed him. Adrian's jaw tightened. He was fired? Yes. Simone looked at the photograph. He spent the rest of his life believing he should have shouted louder. The apartment went quiet. Rain tapped against the window. Adrian placed the manual down. And tonight? Simone met his eyes. I decided not to inherit his silence. Adrian said nothing. His phone remained useless. His safe houses were compromised. Men he trusted were hunting him. Yet standing in Simone Hayes' apartment, Adrian understood something that unsettled him more than betrayal. He had employed her for 3 years. She had carried his coffee, cleaned his office, walked past him thousands of times, and he had never once asked who taught her to see the world so clearly. Adrian looked at the photograph again, then at Simone. You saved my life. Simone shook her head. Not yet. Adrian's eyes narrowed. She walked to the kitchen table and unfolded the grocery receipts. 6 pieces of paper. 6 patterns. Simone placed them in a row. Marcus thinks you're running. He's right. No. She pointed to 917. That's what he wants. Adrian stared at the numbers. Simone's eyes hardened. If you keep running, he'll always know where to wait. The room went silent. Adrian slowly sat down. For the first time that night, he stopped thinking about escape and started listening to the Maid. For 12 years, Adrian Vescari had paid men to predict his enemies. At 2 in the morning, he began taking instructions from a maid. Simone sat across from him at the small kitchen table. 6 grocery receipts formed a crooked line between them. The yellow lamp above the stove cast shadows across Adrian's face. Show me again, he said. Simone pointed to the first receipt. Marcus crosses into the west corridor. The second, camera goes dark. The third, north gate opens. The fourth, 3 earpieces. Same time. Adrian leaned back. 917, every time. Why 917? I don't know. Adrian looked at her. Simone did not look away. That was becoming familiar. She never pretended to know more than she did. In Adrian's world, men lied to appear useful. Simone was useful because she refused to lie. He reached for the receipt marked red mud. Marcus entered my office at 11 this morning. Did he have permission? Yes. For what? Adrian's jaw tightened. He said one of the desk sensors was malfunctioning. Simone folded her arms. Was it? I never checked. The silence that followed was uncomfortable. Not because Adrian had made a mistake. Because he had trusted Marcus enough not to look. Simone stood. She walked to the bookshelf and removed an old surveillance manual. A folded city map fell from inside. She placed it on the table. What are you doing? Adrian asked. Finding out what 917 means. With a map? With your memory. Simone circled the Vescari estate. Where was Marcus the first night you noticed something unusual? Adrian almost corrected her. She had noticed. Not him. He let the sentence pass. West Wing. Second night. I don't know. Think. Adrian's eyes hardened. Nobody told Adrian Vescari to think. Simone waited. Finally, he answered. Garage. Third. North Gate. Simone marked each location. 3 points. A line formed around the estate. Adrian stared. They weren't testing one in trance. No, they were testing response times. Simone nodded. And you watched them? No, her voice was quiet. They watched you. Adrian became still. Simone pointed to the marks. Every camera outage. Every gate opening. Every changed rotation. They weren't hiding from your security system. She looked at him. They were measuring how fast you reacted. The room went silent. Adrian understood. Marcus had spent weeks training the estate. Training Adrian. Teaching everyone that small failures meant nothing. Then, on the night of the betrayal, the failures arrived together. 917 wasn't the attack time, Adrian said. Simone shook her head. It was rehearsal. Adrian stood. He walked toward the window. Rain blurred the streetlights. Marcus noticed her more than anything else that night. Men like Adrian Vescari did not apologize easily. Sometimes, they did not know how. But respect often begins in the second before pride speaks. Adrian looked at the receipts. Then we do this your way. Simone pulled the map closer. No, she uncapped a pen. We do it the way they won't expect. Outside, Boston disappeared beneath rain. Inside apartment 3B, a Mafia Boss and a black Maid leaned over a city map. One had spent his life commanding men. The other had spent hers being overlooked. And before sunrise, Adrian Vescari finally understood the advantage Simone Hayes had carried into his house every day. Nobody watches the invisible person until she starts watching back. The first rule of betrayal is simple. A traitor watches the door he expects you to use. At 9:17 the following evening, Marcus Vale stood inside an abandoned warehouse near the Boston waterfront. Rain struck the metal roof. Click. Marcus touched his earpiece. Across the warehouse, Elliot Kane answered. Click. Derek Shaw stood beside the loading entrance. Click. Caleb Ross checked his watch. 3 sounds. Same rhythm. Marcus looked toward the empty chair in the center of the warehouse. Adrian Vescari was supposed to be sitting there soon. At least, that was what Marcus believed. 12 hours earlier, a message had reached one of Adrian's compromised contacts. VES, Carey moving to Pier 9. 9:17, alone. Marcus had smiled when he read it. Predictable. That was Adrian's weakness. Not fear. Habit. Marcus knew which cars he used, which roads he avoided, which men he called when pressure tightened around him. 12 years beside a powerful man taught you everything. Or so Marcus believed. Across the city, Simone Hayes sat inside a parked delivery van. She wore no Maid uniform. Dark jeans. Black coat. Her braids pulled back. Adrian sat beside her. A small monitor rested between them. The warehouse appeared in grainy black and white. Marcus. Elliot. Derek. Caleb. All 4. Adrian watched without blinking. You were right, he said. Simone kept her eyes on the screen. I know. Adrian glanced at her. You could pretend to be surprised. I cleaned your house for 3 years. Simone pointed at Marcus. I know what his coffee cup looks like from 20 feet away. Adrian almost smiled. Then Marcus's voice came through the monitor. He'll come. Adrian's expression hardened. The van became quiet. Marcus continued. He always does. Something moved behind Adrian's eyes. 12 years. Hospital rooms. Funerals. Christmas dinners. Blood on a nightclub floor. Adrian had mistaken them. Elliot looked at Marcus. Derek lowered his eyes. Caleb stepped away. The betrayal was collapsing without a single dramatic command. Adrian watched Marcus lose control of the room. Quietly. Completely. Then Adrian spoke. Marcus. Marcus looked at the screen. You were right about one thing. Adrian glanced at Simone. I was predictable. Simone's eyes remained steady. Adrian looked back at the man who had betrayed him. But she wasn't. The screen went black. And at 9:21 p.m., Marcus Vale finally understood why the empty chair frightened him more than Adrian Vescari ever had. Because the man he betrayed had changed his rhythm. And the woman who taught him how had been invisible the entire time. 3 months later, the Vescari estate had new cameras. New locks. New guards. But the greatest change was standing in the security room wearing a navy blue suit. Simone Hayes looked at 12 monitors. North Gate. East Hall. Garage. West Corridor. Every image moved in silence. Behind her, a young security guard entered carrying coffee. He walked past Simone without speaking, placed a folder on the desk, then turned toward Adrian Vescari. Morning, Mr. Vescari. Adrian stood near the doorway. White shirt. Dark trousers. No jacket. His gray eyes moved from the guard to Simone. The guard followed his gaze. Oh, he looked embarrassed. Sorry, I didn't see you. Simone smiled. That's all right. The guard left. Adrian watched the door close. You're going to let that go? Simone turned back to the monitors. Let what go? He walked past you. Yes. He didn't acknowledge you. No, Adrian folded his arms. Simone. She looked at him. Let him. Adrian raised an eyebrow. Simone pointed toward the monitor showing the north gate. Invisible people see more. For several seconds, Adrian said nothing. Then he laughed. Quietly. It was a sound the old security staff would not have recognized. 3 months earlier, Marcus Vale and the other traitors had been removed from every Vescari operation. No public spectacle. No bodies displayed. No dramatic revenge. Adrian did something colder. He documented everything. The stolen access records. The manipulated cameras. The unauthorized gate openings. The financial transfers Marcus believed were hidden. Then Adrian placed the evidence in the hands of people who knew exactly what to do with it. Marcus lost his position. His network. His protection. The men who followed him discovered loyalty became expensive when betrayal stopped paying. Quiet justice. Complete. But Adrian did not rebuild his security the old way. He created a new division for his legitimate businesses. Internal security operations. Its first director had never carried a weapon for him. Simone Hayes. When Adrian offered her the position, she stared at him for nearly a minute. You want the maid running security? Adrian had answered without smiling. No, he paused. I want the woman who saved my life running security. Simone accepted on one condition. What? Every cleaner, driver, kitchen worker, and maintenance employee gets a direct reporting channel. Adrian frowned. For security threats? For anything they notice. They aren't trained. Neither was I. That ended the argument. Now, a small black box sat beside every staff entrance. Anonymous reports. Broken locks. Unusual visitors. Changed routines. Things powerful people once considered too small to matter. In the first month, the reports prevented 2 thefts and exposed a manager falsifying payroll records. Adrian read every summary. He had learned. One afternoon, Simone entered the dining room carrying a folder. The same walnut table stood beneath the chandelier. The same wine cabinet reflected the room. Adrian sat in the same chair. Simone placed the folder before him. Weekly security review. Adrian looked at the clock. 9:17. Click. A guard touched his earpiece outside. Adrian's hand stopped. Simone noticed. So you hear it now. Adrian looked at her. Yes. She smiled. Good. Adrian opened the folder. Then stopped. Simone. Yes. He looked toward the place beside his chair where she had once bent to adjust a napkin. The place where one whisper changed everything. Thank you. Simone's expression softened. You already thanked me. Not properly. She waited. Adrian stood. For years, men had praised his instincts, his intelligence, his ability to survive. He had believed them. Now he knew survival sometimes began with the humility to admit someone else saw what you missed. Everyone in this house was paid to protect me, Adrian said. His voice was quiet. The only person who did was the woman none of us were watching. The room went silent. Simone's eyes remained steady. Adrian held out his hand. Not to a maid. Not to an employee. To the person he trusted to see what he could not. Simone shook it. Outside, Boston moved beneath gray morning light. Inside the Vescari estate, the cameras continued turning. Left. Right. Left. Watching doors. Watching gates. Watching powerful men. But Adrian Vescari had finally learned that dignity begins when you notice the person everyone else ignores. And that day, the world remembered what respect looks like.